Hey everyone! If you enjoyed this video, the full version is available on Patreon. I'll be uploading all my content there going forward.
Chapter 1. My consciousness seemed to rise from the deep sea. First, I heard a vague buzzing in my ears, followed by a pleasant female voice. Jiang Chen. Stop playing dead. Are you going to pay me back today or not? Jiang Chen suddenly opened his eyes, only to find a scene of utter chaos. The studio was cluttered, with a few decent-looking computer towers flickering dimly. He himself slumped on the floor, leaning against a computer case. Immediately afterwards, a massive amount of fragmented memories surged into my mind. Parallel worlds, tech tree. With immersive simulation devices becoming mainstream, game development costs are high, and creativity is drying up. The original owner was a game studio owner with dreams but limited abilities. He borrowed money to develop a copycat casual game, but ended up losing everything and accumulating huge debts. He, however, traveled through time. He became this unlucky guy who also shared the same name, Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen was completely bewildered as he processed this information. The game is already at hellish difficulty from the start. Tisk. An impatient smack of the lip pulled him back to reality. He looked up, his gaze focused. The first thing you see is a calf with striking lines. Encased in delicate black stockings, her legs appeared slender and graceful. She was wearing a pair of stylish square-toed leather shoes, the surface of which was polished to a shine. At that moment, she stepped on his thigh, her heel grinding defiantly. My gaze followed that foot upwards, and then upwards again. Jiang Chen met a pair of bright eyes that held a hint of anger and disdain. The woman in front of me was very young, probably in her early 20s. Her features are delicate, but the aura between her brows and eyes is in no way weak. She was dressed in a well-tailored black suit, which seemed out of place in the messy studio. Gu Wan. Based on his memory, Jiang Chen called out the other person's name somewhat uncertainly. His main creditor was also the original owner's former classmate. Looks like she's not completely stupid yet. Su Wan snorted coldly. Instead of retracting his foot, he slightly increased the force. Don't think you can get away with playing dumb. 10,000 credits, interest included. Either pay me back today, or I'll have all your junk equipment and computers taken away as payment. Although it's not worth much money. The hard solace of the leather shoes hurt Jiang Chen a little, but he felt more humiliated by the position. Miss Su. Jiang Chen took a deep breath. Can't we talk this out properly? Stepping on me like this won't solve anything. Oh. Su Wan raised an eyebrow. Leaning closer, a delicate fragrance wafted into Jiang Chen's nostrils. Then tell me, how do you solve this problem? Are you expecting your poorly copied Dream Garden to become a hit after its release? After she finished speaking, she clicked her tongue again. Jiang Chen, let's be realistic. The market is now full of motion-sensing games aimed at very young children in all ages. The giants have already blocked all the way. You piece of junk, you won't even get a sip of the soup. Su Wan's words gave Jiang Chen a clearer understanding of the game market in this world. Safe, harmless, and childish are almost the mainstream labels. The original owner's memories and current situation made him feel suffocated again. Does this mean I'm already burdened with a huge debt right after transmigrating? Just as he was about to speak. The host has successfully arrived in the target world and meets the binding requirements. System is activating. 10%, 30%, 100%. Binding successful. Searching for host soul imprints and memory bank. Connecting to database. New player gift pack has been sent. Please check. The cold, mechanical voice echoed clearly in my mind, like heavenly music. Jiang Chen's heart skipped a beat, and he was overjoyed. But he forcefully suppressed it. Su Wan noticed his shifty eyes and strange expression. I thought he was ashamed of what I said. She involuntarily withdrew her foot, crossed her arms, and looked up at him with her chin raised. What? Speechless. Then let's not waste each other's time. I'm calling for backup. Wait. Jiang Chen suddenly exclaimed, his voice slightly hoarse with excitement. He stood up, supporting himself on the computer case, and stared intently at Suwan. Suwan, give me one more chance. This is the last time. Suwan was taken aback by his question, and frowned. Opportunity? What do you have to offer for an opportunity? Jiang Chen stared intently at Suwan, his gaze unlike that of a desperate debtor. Suwan, his voice was low. Lend me another 800,000. What? Suwan's beautiful eyes widened instantly. Jiang Chen. Has the debt clouded your judgment? You still dare to lend me money? Are you really planning to go into business if you can't pay it back? Her chest heaved, clearly she was furious. This BD, instead of thinking about how to pay off his old debts, actually dares to ask for money? This is absolutely outrageous. Let me finish. Jiang Chen didn't back down at all, he pointed to the ground. I'm using this studio, along with all the equipment inside and the right to use this house, as collateral. 800,000 for 1 month of my time. If I still can't pay it back in a month. Everything here, including myself, is at your disposal. His words were so resolute that Suwan was momentarily stunned. This sudden, powerful aura left her speechless for a moment. You. Suwan took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing her turbulent emotions. Good. Very good. Jiang Chen, I'll see how you die a month from now. I'll have the contract drafted right now. Once it's signed, the 800,000 will be in your account immediately. You'd better watch yourself. She practically gritted her teeth as she uttered the last 4 words, her voice filled with exasperated frustration. The procedures were completed quickly. Looking at the 800,000 credit points credited to his personal terminal, and the complicated look in Suwan's eyes as she left, Jiang Chen knew that he had no way out. He locked the studio door from the inside, completely shutting out the noise and doubts from the outside world. My mind sank into the sea of consciousness. System, activate the newbie gift pack. Ding! New player gift pack has been activated. Congratulations, host! You have obtained the complete version of Plants vs. Zombies and the source code for its advanced technology adaptation. Congratulations, host! You have obtained all resources for the Left 4 Dead series and a physics engine optimization pack. Congratulations, host! You have obtained a Warhammer 40,000 core demo and some technical blueprints. Countless streams of information flooded his mind. They were cultural products of his original era. Creativity that far surpasses the current state of the world is a powerful tool capable of creating waves. However, Jiang Chen's gaze remained fixed on the third reward. Warhammer 40,000. The name itself carries a chilling weight. The moment his consciousness touched that icon. Buzz! It was as if the universe had just begun, and the Milky Way had reversed its course. A magnificent and dark panorama suddenly unfolded before his eyes. He saw it. In the endless sea of stars, the massive imperial warships are like moving steel mountains. The bow bears the sacred eagle emblem, and the muzzles of the cannons flash. He heard it too. I heard the fervent prayers of millions of believers. Its roar, along with the booming of weapons and the furious cries of guns, intertwined to create a brutal symphony of war. He also felt that chilling malice came from the depths of the warp. And the Space Marines' steely will, their absolute loyalty to the Emperor, burning everything in their path. This is a dark age where a god emperor sits high on a golden throne, using his own crippled body to sustain the survival of human civilization. This is a despairing future where aliens, heretics, and chaotic demons ravage the galaxy, and war is the only eternal theme. This is a place where survival is a sin, and sacrifice is an honor. Loyalty is the reward. The 40th millennium. Space Marines. Omnissiah. The Emperor. An indescribable shock swept over Jiang Chen. Compared to this grand and tragic Warhammer world, which pushes violence and faith to the extreme, the so-called all-ages motion-sensing games that are popular right now are as childish as children's doodles. That's it. Jiang Chen slowly opened his eyes, a smile spreading across his face. This lukewarm game market, dominated by saccharine art styles. It's time for something truly shocking. Chapter 2. Jiang Chen slowly withdrew his consciousness from the system and opened his eyes. The studio was still messy, but his eyes had changed completely. That's it. Jiang Chen's goal was clear, the Warhammer 40,000 demo. This market, dominated by saccharine visuals and childish content, needs a powerful, drastic remedy. What he wants to use is not improvement, but complete subversion and crushing. With absolute hardcore technology, we'll crush the gaming market head-on. System: adapt and upload Warhammer 40,000 content. Command confirmed. Initiating world line technology adaptation. Adaptation complete. File encryption, processing complete. Connecting to the work platform. Connection successful. Uploading, 1%, 50%, 100%. Upload successful. Almost instantly, the system completed all the tedious tasks. Next, we'll move on to game content planning. Jiang Chen had already prepared for this part. This was his job before he time traveled. Patting his cheeks, Jiang Chen continued to immerse himself in the game. 2 days later, everything was ready. The next step is pricing strategy. Selling them at a high price directly would probably scare away most curious players. Jiang Chen's lips curled into a capitalist smile. Let's set it to free download for now, and you can try out the first few chapters. In later chapters, a certain number of hits will be required. Or you may need to achieve certain milestones to unlock it. Once a large number of players have joined, new paid chapters will be developed. He's not looking for a one-off deal. Instead, it's about cultivating a group of loyal game fans. Jiang Chen believed that once they experienced part of the Warhammer universe, those achievements symbolizing glory and power would be unlocked. This will attract a constant influx of players. Moreover, Jiang Chen's gaze extended even further. Once the total number of players surpasses 10 million and a certain number of execution achievements are completed, this will unlock a large-scale multiplayer mode. Imagine thousands of players, clad in power armor, forming different Space Marine chapters. On a vast planetary battlefield, we fight side by side for faith and glory. Or, fight each other to the death. How magnificent that would be! This prospect alone was enough to excite Jiang Chen. Of course, to turn your character into a Space Marine, you'll need to unlock certain missions. Preparations are complete. Jiang Chen walked to the corner of the office, where a slightly old but fully functional holographic device was placed. A streamlined shell, sophisticated sensors, and a high-tech helmet. In this world, this is the only ticket to enter the game. After putting on the equipment, I felt a sense of heaviness, but it didn't hinder my activities. The moment I put on the helmet, my vision was completely enveloped. Warhammer 40,000 Chapter 1, Initiating. Jiang Chen wanted to go in personally for a final check on this gift from the original world. Will he truly be able to unleash the storm he anticipates in this world? Meanwhile, Doudou Live platform. Popular streamer Meng Xiaobai was browsing the game library with nothing to do. She is known for her sweet appearance and occasional bold actions. But her recent lack of gaming experience has made her somewhat unmotivated. Xiaobai, forget about games, just let my wife, your sister, appear in the video. Xiaobai. I'm begging you. Just let my wife broadcast for a few minutes, please. Bye. Let me see our sister one more time, just one more time. She's coming out soon. What's so interesting about games? We want to watch our sister train the dog. The chat began its usual segment of calling out to the older sister. Meng Xiaobai rolled her eyes at the camera. Go away, am I streaming or is my sister streaming? If you want to see my sister, turn right after you leave. I'm a game streamer. Today I have to find a new game to show you all. She retorted while rapidly scrolling through the screen. The wide variety of game icons are mostly brightly colored. The characters were all so adorable that she was starting to get a little tired of them. Suddenly, an extremely conspicuous icon caught her eye. The icon features a dark and metallic color scheme, with a background of shattered planets and a burning starry sky. A man wearing a menacing helmet and heavy armor. Its massive silhouette, adorned with a skull and eagle emblem, occupies most of the icon. The huge, peculiar saw-like weapon in his hand was dripping a viscous green liquid. A sense of oppression washes over you, creating a stark contrast with the cute art style around you. Warhammer 40,000. Holy crap, what is this thing? A chainsaw killer. Xiaobai instinctively swore, and the mouse was already on the target. The introduction, though brief, carries an ineffable weight. The light of the human emperor has shone for millennia, and his kingdom still burns among the stars. Gunfire and prayers, loyalty and betrayal. Light and fire, blood and tears. It is the only echo in this dark epic. In this distant 40th millennium, between the universe. Only war. Hiss. Xiaobai took a deep breath, feeling the overwhelming sense of superiority. The comments kept popping up. Holy crap, this art style is so unique. That looks terrifying. What is that armored giant? This must have just been released. I didn't see it yesterday. The streamer is playing this. It looks so exciting. Fueled by the audience's encouragement and his own curiosity, Xiaobai slammed his hand on the table, energized. Play. Play this. Guys, watch this. If we can't beat this level today, I'll do a swimsuit-clad handstand hair washing routine right here and now. The comments section immediately responded. Here we go again, the ultimate classic, washing your hair upside down. It's a swimsuit. She wore a swimsuit underneath. Don't show off your elementary school-aged body, I'm not interested. A is out of the question. Let's watch the upside-down hair washing instead. Ha ha ha, that's killing someone by breaking their spirit. How about some tangible benefits? Meng Xiaobai, seeing the comments, gritted her teeth in anger. Who do you think you are? Fine. Upside down hair washing plus a hot dance for every failed challenge. Satisfied now? As for body shape, you guys don't know anything. This is what real health is. It must be tiring to hold up someone with big breasts and a big butt. As he spoke, Meng Xiaobai began connecting to his motion sensing device. Before entering the game, sensory settings options appeared. Virtual sensory synchronization rate, default 80%, recommended. Pain feedback, default 40%, safe threshold. Oh! It can be increased. The adorable little white rabbit's eyes lit up. Set the synchronization rate to 90%. Pain sensitivity, set to 70%. Heh. Let the brothers see what a hardcore streamer is like. The live chat was filled with comments like suicidal, brave warrior, and waiting for the streamer to cry. Setup complete. Meng Xiaobai took a deep breath, put on the VR headset, and lay down in the motion sensing pod. Link begins. Chapter 3. Link begins. Accompanied by Meng Xiaobai's slightly nervous yet excited voice, the helmet completely obscured her vision. A faint electrical sound emanated from the haptic suit, connecting her physical senses with the virtual world. The next second, my vision was filled with a dazzling sea of stars. Holy crap! Meng Xiaobai instinctively swore, not out of fear, but because of the sudden feeling of weightlessness and the unimaginable scene. Her vision was racing at an incredible speed, the stars appearing as trailing streaks of light. This magnificent cosmic view lasted only a moment before the view abruptly plummeted towards a planet. The planet rapidly magnified before her eyes, and she could clearly see the swirling eddies within its atmosphere. At the same time, text appeared on the screen. World, Borug, the world of hive cities. Status, under attack from unknown sources, planetary communication networks are silent, the Emperor's light is dimmed here. Objective, explore the hive's mutation and survive until the angels descend. Warning, survival probability assessment, 50%. Unidentified intrusion? Angelic arrival? Without giving her any time to think, the fall stopped abruptly, and her vision cleared in an instant. She then realized that she was standing on a wide but crowded and filthy street. Looking up, what I saw wasn't the sky, but layers upon layers, twisting and contorting upwards. Until the massive building structure disappeared into the thick smoke and shadows. Like rusty steel behemoths, they squeezed and clung to each other. It forms an interior of a building that stretches to the horizon, enveloping the entire world below. Everything before my eyes was unlike any game I had ever played before, it was so real. Where am I? She murmured to herself. Holy crap! This environment! This modeling! I'm suffocating. Just looking at it makes me feel like I can't breathe. This is a game scene. I'd believe you if you told me it was a new trailer for some sci-fi blockbuster. Where's the background music? Why is there only the sound of wind and that metallic friction noise? The live chat exploded with comments. Everyone was stunned by the unprecedented, massive, and chaotic environment. Meng Xiaobai turned her perspective and saw that the streets were lined with densely packed, simple dwellings, resembling a honeycomb. People dressed in rags and with sallow, emaciated faces moved about like walking corpses. In the distance, on the towering facade of a massive building, stands an enormous statue. It was a giant statue with a laurel wreath on its head and a majestic face. And a huge, winged, golden skull symbol, gleaming golden in the dim light. She actually felt a grand and imposing aura emanating from this enormous sculpture. Unlike the exquisite and grand sculpture, there was an indescribable smell in the air. It was a mixture of engine oil, rust, and a faint, almost imperceptible smell of decay. The ergonomic suit completely transmitted this complex odor information to her, making her feel nauseous. This is really a game. Meng Xiaobai's voice was filled with disbelief. Guys, this environment is so depressing. Just then, a commotion broke out. Several men dressed in similarly shabby clothes, but wearing some kind of insignia on their arms, pushed several large barrels over. He shouted loudly, "Get your rations! Line up! You scum who have descended from the nest, this is a gift from the Emperor!" At the other person's shouts, the crowd began to move, numbly forming a long queue. When it was Meng Xiaobai's turn, the other party roughly shoved a grayish-brown lump of something that looked like compressed soil and had strange patterns into her hands. The item information appeared before her eyes: standard rations, corpse starch. Corpse starch. Meng Xiaobai's voice suddenly rose. My hand trembled, and I almost threw the thing away. The comments section went crazy. Wait, what did I just hear? Corpse starch. Is that what I'm thinking? Holy crap! Starch made from corpses. What kind of grotesque setting is this? Host, try it. Give us your feedback on the taste. This game's creator is a monster. Try it my a. Meng Xiaobai stared at the thing in her hand. The rough, slightly sticky texture simulated by the haptic suit sent shivers down her spine. How can anyone put this in their mouth? She watched as those around her who had received the corpse starch devoured it, as if they were savoring some unparalleled delicacy. Then she noticed a small, thin figure beside her. A little boy, dressed in clothes that were too big and patched up, was staring longingly at the food in her hand. His little face was dirty, and his throat moved involuntarily. She was probably too thin and was pushed out by the crowd in the queue. Meng Xiaobai's heart softened. Although I felt disgusted, I still squatted down and handed over the piece of starch from the corpse. Here, take it. I'm not hungry. The little boy paused for a moment, then his eyes lit up. He grabbed the food and, as if afraid that Meng Xiaobai would change her mind, quickly stuffed it into her mouth. He swallowed indistinctly, thank you, sister. The streamer is such a nice person. However, is this really a good thing to give to children? The key question is this thing actually edible? In this environment, having anything to eat is already a blessing. It made me feel so choked up. Meng Xiaobai glanced at her status bar, the value representing stamina was about half left. While somatosensory systems can simulate taste and touch, they cannot simulate the feeling of hunger. Therefore, she cannot feel the hunger of the game character. Half should be enough, but I can't see the health bar yet. Brothers, watch me beat the game with only half my stamina left. As Meng Xiaobai was speaking, she had just stood up when a rough roar exploded in her ear. Idiots! What are you dawdling for? You filthy scavengers, can't you even stand in line? A burly man in a dirty uniform, with a fierce face and holding a stun gun, glared menacingly at her and the other newcomers. Hurry up! Continue your shooting practice. Nesters. What does mean? Does it mean country bumpkin? Although the background is still unclear, the smell is so strong, it must be a post-apocalyptic wasteland. This world building seems interesting, it's better than those games that just rely on cuteness. Interesting? This is so vague, there's not even a beginner's guide, thumbs down. Exactly. I haven't even touched the gun yet, and I've already been given a thorough dressing down. The comments section was buzzing with discussion, and even the novice was furious at the NPC's rude attitude. But because of the stun gun in the other person's hand, he could only swallow his anger and follow the group. She noticed that the little boy who had just received her food was also at the end of the line. Soon, they were taken to a more open, but equally rudimentary, place. This place is piled high with discarded metal components. In the distance stood several crooked, rusty human-shaped targets. Here you go. The training officer handed out old-looking firearms to the people in line one by one. Meng Xiaobai took it and checked. Item information, laser gun, poorly maintained. Brothers! Did you see that? The guns are coming. Finally, a weapon appeared, and it was even in a shooting game, something I'm good at. The naive newbie instantly regained his confidence as a game streamer. I'm a pro at shooting games. Back in the day, cf. She confidently raised her gun and tried to aim at the target in the distance. Then, she was dumbfounded. This gun is too heavy. And there's no crosshair at all. Or rather, the so-called crosshair was worn down to the point of being unreadable. She awkwardly adjusted her posture, feeling incredibly uncomfortable with the gun. Bang! A red beam shot out from the gun muzzle and flew away in an instant, disappearing into some unknown corner. Ha ha ha! That's it! Gun King! Master of human body outlining! This gun looks like garbage. No, there's something wrong with this gun. The young man blushed and hurriedly tried to explain. This crappy gun is impossible to aim at. So professional. Absolutely amazing. Meng Xiaobai ignored the comments and looked around. The other trainees performed even worse. Some were so frightened by the laser gun beams that they fell to the ground. What shocked her even more was the previously thin boy. He was also holding a laser gun that was almost as tall as him, struggling to aim, his little face turning red. A clumsy and arduous effort to shoot. Holy crap! Kids need training too. What kind of place is this? Child laborers are here. Damn, this planner is incredibly audacious. This game's background is so dark. As the comments kept flashing by, even a nagging newbie felt a pang of sadness. Although the game's background is still unknown, this information is being revealed as the story unfolds. It was indeed getting crueler each time. The training officer looked at the recruit's poor performance with undisguised contempt and disgust. Enough, he rudely interrupted everyone's training. It seems you have fully mastered how to use these sacred weapons. By the Emperor, this is nothing short of a miracle. His gaze swept over everyone on the field. Get ready, soldiers. You will be able to go to the front lines soon. May you survive a few more minutes under the enemy's claws. Front line? Claws? What does claws mean? Before Meng Xiaobai could recover from the embarrassment of her failed shot, she was stunned by this barrage of information. Wait, wait! Everyone's going? He's going too. Meng Xiaobai pointed at the little boy, her voice tinged with disbelief. The trainer chuckled as if he'd heard the funniest joke. Of course. In the Emperor's army, anyone who can pick up a gun is a soldier. Even the young chicks that leave the nest are no exception. The adorable newbie stood there dumbfounded. This game designer really doesn't treat people like human beings. Even a child can be sent to the battlefield. However, it seems that the shooting practice just now was just a beginner's tutorial. I didn't even have time to calibrate the crosshair. Chapter 4. Get in there! What are you dawdling for? A shout rang out. Under the threat of stun batons, Meng Xiaobai and a group of new recruits who had just completed shooting training were all taken to a new area. After being herded through the gate, a dull thud came from behind me. Boom! Meng Xiaobai turned around abruptly and saw an extremely tall and heavy door rapidly closing down. It was finally embedded perfectly into the ground, completely sealing off any escape route. Holy crap! The door's closed. What's going on? They've locked up the newbies. Brothers, I don't get the feeling these officers who trained us aren't good people. How can you treat new recruits like this? All they teach them is how to fire a gun and that's it. Meng Xiaobai lowered her voice and looked around at the people. They're sending us, the old, weak, sick, and disabled, directly to the battlefield. The comments section immediately followed suit. This gives off a pure cannon fodder vibe. Isn't this just suicide? Meng Xiaobai sniffed. The air was filled with the smell of rust, dust, and a faint stench of blood. After my eyes gradually adjusted to the dim light, I noticed several corpses lying haphazardly not far away. They were dressed in simple clothes similar to those around them, and their deaths were gruesome. The surviving recruits nearby clearly witnessed this scene, and fear began to spread among them. Some people began to sob softly, while others collapsed to the ground, their legs giving way. Many others were deathly pale, clutching their worn-out laser guns tightly. Guys, these NPCs' emotions are so realistic. It didn't feel like a game at all, everyone seemed genuinely scared. As a player, she was actually the calmest one in the group. After all, it's just a game, you can start over if you die. Seeing the crowd frozen in fear, Meng Xiaobai took a deep breath, realizing she couldn't just sit and wait to die. She raised her voice and shouted, "Hey! Everyone! Waiting here isn't a solution. Who knows what else might come up behind us? Let's move forward and see if we can find a way out." Meng Xiaobai's voice was loud, but all she received in response was silence and more fearful stares. Most people seemed not to have heard her, only glancing at Meng Xiaobai. Some people, however, rushed towards the corpses, frantically searching through them. They took small pieces of something from the deceased's pocket, which looked like food, and put it directly into his mouth. Ugh, you actually ate it. This is too hardcore. I can't take it. Host, why didn't the event trigger? What's next? I don't know either, the game's tutorial is really bad. Meng Xiaobai frowned as she interacted with the comments. The comments are all generated in real time through voice recognition, so there's no need to spend time reading them. She fought back her nausea and cautiously approached the corpse. Upon closer inspection, the wounds on these corpses were extremely bizarre. Moreover, the wounds were not caused by firearms, but rather by extremely clean lacerations. It looked as if it had been instantly sliced open by an extremely sharp blade, and white bone fragments could be seen at the edges of the wound. In addition, there are some obvious bite marks. The skin and flesh were everted, revealing the dark red tissue underneath. Ugh! Upon closer inspection, every detail of the corpse became clearly visible. The strong smell of blood and decay wafted through the tactile suit, making her stomach churn. Brothers, this corpse is so realistic, damn it! Does the game designer have some kind of weird fetish? I can't take it anymore. Luckily, the light was dim, so it wasn't very clear. This wound, it doesn't look like it was done by a human. Just then, Meng Xiaobai suddenly remembered what the training instructor had said, I wish you can survive a few more minutes under the enemy's claws. Claws. At the time, she didn't understand, but now, seeing these wounds, she finally gets it. Brothers. Case solved. The enemy isn't human. It's some kind of monster. Meng Xiaobai shouted. Look at these claw marks and bite marks. It must be some kind of mutated beast. It was at this moment that she noticed what was below her line of sight. The stamina bar, which represents physical strength, has unknowingly dropped a bit, now only about 1/3 remains. Oh no! Her heart skipped a beat. Brothers, we forgot we haven't eaten. Our energy isn't at full strength. Could this be part of a hunger stat system? If this drags on, I might starve to death before the monsters even arrive. Thinking about his goal of completing the game in one life, Meng Xiaobai got a little anxious. If we wait any longer, my stamina will definitely run out. We must take the initiative to do something. She turned to the terrified crowd again and shouted. Listen up, everyone. These corpses died in such a strange way. It's dangerous to leave them here. Who knows if the things that killed them will come back? We need to get out of here and go inside. This time, seeing her companion's gruesome death, her words had some effect. Then, thinking of the unknown enemy, the instinct for survival finally overcame the numb fear. Some people's faces showed hesitation, and they began to move their feet slowly. Soon, the first one, the second one. Just then, a clear system notification sound rang in Meng Xiaobai's ears. The semi-transparent task frame instantly unfolded in her field of vision. Side quest triggered, Leadership Aura. Mission requirements, ignite a glimmer of hope in despair, gather at least 30 lost souls, and guide them forward. Mission requirements, successfully persuade and lead at least 30 survivors to join your mission. Current progress, 5/30, 8/30, 22/30. Mission reward, upon completion of the mission, you will receive the special status Temporary Leader, which slightly increases the morale and combat effectiveness of nearby friendly units. Wow! Did you guys see that? Meng Xiaobai shouted excitedly. A side quest. And it even gave me a leader aura. Wow, this game is pretty good. It has a lot of freedom. Ha ha ha. Looks like my leadership skills can't be hidden any longer. Brothers, let's show our support in the chat. Amidst a barrage of complaints in the live chat, more and more people picked up guns and silently moved behind Meng Xiaobai. In the end, apart from a dozen or so who completely collapsed and lay sprawled on the ground, most people chose to follow her as the leader, heading deeper into the denser darkness of the area. There was one exception, a man. The man was dressed in equally tattered clothes, but his eyes did not show the fear of the others, instead, they held a calmness and an imperceptible sharpness. He neither searched for food nor followed the crowd, he simply walked alone to the tightly closed door. I found a relatively clean step and sat down. He even leaned back leisurely, closed his eyes, as if everything around him was irrelevant. Hey? This guy's pretty cocky. Among all the drunkards, am I the only one sober? Is there some hidden plot? Meng Xiaobai also noticed this man, although the number of people was still insufficient and the mission rewards had not yet been distributed. Meng Xiaobai decided to go and see what the rest of the story would be like. Besides, if all else fails, we can come back and bring the rest of the people here with us. She waved to the crowd. Let's go. The group then began to move forward cautiously. As they went deeper, the light grew dimmer, and they could barely make out the metal floor beneath their feet. The surrounding area was a complex network of metal pipes and abandoned structures, casting distorted shadows. A faint, rapid friction sound, accompanied by the sound of something moving at high speed, came from the overhead pipes. What was that sound? Meng Xiaobai's hair stood on end instantly, and he abruptly looked up into the darkness. Her reaction was quick, but what was in the dark was even faster. Just as she looked up, a blurry black shadow swooped down from the shadow of the pipe. Only a few fleeting, shimmering arcs could be captured. The adorable newbie didn't even have time to fire or dodge. He instinctively raised his arm to block in front of him. Then I felt a chill on my neck, and my vision was instantly swallowed by darkness. Then, a line of Gothic script, branded with steel, slowly appeared before her eyes. Your flesh and blood have returned to all living beings. Below the text, there is a small note. Death replay feature unlocked. Watch now. Damn it. He's dead already. What just happened? Something, give it to me. Chapter 5. The viewers were surprised, and Meng Xiaobai looked completely bewildered. Holy crap! I refuse to accept this. Seeing the death notification on the screen, Meng Xiaobai shouted angrily. Just now he was so confident that he would complete the game in one life. He used to brag that he could beat the game in one life. He was instantly killed before he even saw what the enemy looked like. How can we tolerate this? Without hesitation, she immediately selected Death Replay. I'd like to see what kind of enemy they are. Are they really that fast? The footage is played at high speed from her first-person perspective during her lifetime. In the dim light, just as she looked up at the pipe, a dark shadow swooped down with terrifying speed. Meng Xiaobai deliberately slowed down the playback speed to barely see it clearly. It was a humanoid monster with extremely disproportionate limbs, and its skin had an unsettling grayish-brown color. At the end of one of its arms, it had transformed into a bony claw over half a meter long, gleaming with a metallic sheen. This claw, like a hot knife through butter. It easily tore apart her blocking arm, then without hesitation slashed across her neck and upper body. The laser gun in her hand was also severed. The entire process was extremely fast and extremely sharp. Holy crap! Holy crap! What is this thing? Are those claws made of titanium alloy? The laser gun is broken. This look is so cool. The barrage of exclamations kept appearing, even making the novice's scalp tingle. Brothers, this is the enemy. Her voice trembled slightly, so, that damn instructor, after teaching us how to fire that crappy gun, just sent us here to shoot this thing. She grew angrier the more she thought about it, and slammed her hand on the table. Damn it! That crappy gun doesn't even have a crosshair. How are we supposed to shoot something that's moving like a ghost? Is the game designer out of their mind? She took a deep breath. Now I understand. That's why my status is stamina instead of a health bar. What's the point of a health bar when facing this thing? One touch and you're dead. This game is all about one-hit kills, the margin for error is practically zero. After venting her frustrations for a while, Meng Xiaobai gritted her teeth and chose to start over. Perhaps the previous progress was too short, and no save point was triggered. She started all over again from the beginning, from the step of receiving the corpse starch. The procedure remained the same, after giving the food to the little boy from before, she went directly into the training field. This time, she calmed down and carefully examined the simple laser gun in her hand. Having abandoned her previous experience playing Crossfire, she stopped searching for the non-existent crosshair and instead tried to feel the weight of the gun and its approximate direction with her body. "Guys, I think I'm starting to feel it," she said in a low voice. "Although I'm still hitting it crookedly, at least I'm not completely out of control like I was the first time." Once again driven to the gate, Meng Xiaobai noticed that the child had been following her the whole time. Was it the same last time? He was focusing on his surroundings before. Even though she knew he was an NPC, thinking about the fate he might have faced before, Meng Xiaobai still subconsciously pulled him to the back of the group. After all, if they encountered those monsters, after he died, the next one would be this child. "Stay close, don't fall behind," she said to the child. Some viewers in the live chat joked. "The streamer is kind-hearted. Because she is kind. It's all just data, isn't that unnecessary?" Meng Xiaobai pouted, "I know it's data, but I can't bear to look at it." As the heavy steel gate closed again, Meng Xiaobai repeated the previous steps. After triggering the side quest, the appeal calls for leading the crowd deeper into the darkness. Soon, they arrived at the same pipe where they had encountered the enemy. Meng Xiaobai held her breath, her whole body tense. She stared intently at the time display below the status bar in her field of vision. "Now! On my command!" Meng Xiaobai suddenly shouted. "Fire at the pipes overhead! 3, 2, 1. Fire!" Before she could finish speaking, she had already pulled the trigger. The red laser beam shot directly into the darkness above. Her shout, coupled with the sudden firing, provided an outlet for the extremely tense survivors around her. Almost instinctively, he raised his gun and indiscriminately unleashed fire overhead. In an instant, the narrow passage was illuminated by a chaotic barrage of laser beams. Perhaps the pipes above had been damaged, because a crashing sound was heard. Amidst the chaos, that familiar dark figure appeared. It seemed completely unaffected by the attack, and pounced on the spot where Meng Xiaobai was standing with lightning speed. But as soon as Meng Xiaobai shouted the command, it rolled to the side and forward with all its might at the perfect moment. Clang! Almost simultaneously, an ear-piercing sound of metal tearing apart rang out behind her. The sharp, bony claws grazed her back and slammed into the metal floor where she had just been standing. The hard metal floor was torn apart like paper, leaving 3 deep claw marks. He dodged it. Holy crap! Awesome! The streamer's prediction was amazing. There's definitely something going on. That claw attack, oh my god, just hearing the sound makes my phantom limbs hurt. Meng Xiaobai's heart pounded, but instinct made her turn around quickly, pointing her gun at the monster she had missed. With the help of the flashlight and the occasional flash of laser light, she finally saw what it really looked like. It is about 2 meters tall and has a humanoid shape. But his back was hunched, and his skin was an eerie grayish purple, smooth and hairless. The skull is long and narrow, with no obvious nose. A mouth covered with tiny, sharp teeth took up half of his face, making him look extremely ferocious. The attack that just occurred was launched by its huge, sharp bony claws on its forearms. Its other arm is relatively slender, with 4 sharp claws at the end, resembling drill bits. Just as the newbie could fully see the other's appearance, a prompt appeared in the game. Encounter Unit, Gene Stealer, Pioneer Variant. Category, Terran, Infiltration Units. Brief description: descendants of humans infected by gene stealers, inheriting some characteristics of their parents, serve as pioneers paving the way for the main Zerg army. It possesses exceptional stealth capabilities, incredible speed, and bone blades powerful enough to tear through most light armor. It harbors an absolute bloodlust for non-infected humans. A gene stealer. Terran. Meng Xiaobai read the entry aloud, her eyes wide with surprise. Zerg. She pointed at the monster on the screen, her voice filled with disbelief. You call this thing an insect? Does this thing even look like a worm? Chapter 6. Just as Meng Xiaobai was stunned, the ear-piercing sound of the bone blade piercing the ground still echoed. The opponent had already pulled its claws out of the ground. Missing its first strike, it instantly locked onto its next target, the man lying limp on the ground closest to it. No! No! The man's desperate scream abruptly stopped. A flash of cold light. Like a hot knife through butter, his body, along with the gun in his hand, was neatly sliced in two. Warm blood splattered all over Meng Xiaobai's face, and the haptic suit transmitted a clear, sticky sensation. Holy crap! Sold it in seconds. Another one sold out. What kind of damage is that? Run, streamer! What are you standing there for? But the enemy's attack has only just begun. Its figure darted wildly through the narrow passage, its bone blades slicing out a fan-shaped pattern of death. Limbs and severed parts flew everywhere, and terrified screams echoed continuously. Everyone was running away, laser beams were firing randomly. Some lasers that hit it only left negligible scorch marks on its body, and instead fueled its ferocity. It turned and charged towards the nearest cute little white creature. Even though she knew it was a game, Meng Xiaobai's mind went completely blank. He could only instinctively back away while futilely pulling the trigger. Most of the red lasers disappeared without a trace. Just then, the little boy who had been following Meng Xiaobai also started running away. But when he turned his head, he saw Meng Xiaobai in dire straits, and a resolute look flashed across his dirty little face. He let out a childish, shrill scream, and fired his weapon at the gene stealer. However, the attack did not cause any damage, but it successfully attracted its attention. It suddenly turned its head and locked onto the small prey. No! Get out of the way! Meng Xiaobai cried out in alarm. However, it was too late. The bone blade shot out like lightning, piercing the little boy's thin chest with precision and lifting him into the air. The little boy's body twitched, he looked in the direction of Meng Xiaobai, opened his mouth as if to say something, but only blood gushed out. He was then casually flung away, crashing into the cold metal wall, and fell silent. Meng Xiaobai watched this scene unfold, her pupils shrinking as if struck by lightning. That look in their eyes, it was so real. That didn't resemble a programmed death of an NPC at all. That look contained fear, a hint of boastful courage, and finally, feeling lost. Is this really just a game? Her mind went completely blank. Gene thieves show no mercy. After dealing with the little boy, it didn't pause and instantly darted in front of Meng Xiaobai. Meng Xiaobai had completely crashed, and its weapon had stopped firing. A cold, bone blade flashed past her rapidly dilating pupils, and darkness swallowed everything. A few seconds later, your flesh and blood have returned to all living beings. The cold, hard words resurfaced. Meng Xiaobai took off his helmet, leaned back in his gaming chair in a daze, and didn't move for a long time. Previously, when watching death replays, I was more shocked by the monster's appearance and attack power. But to personally experience this battle and death, to see familiar faces die in such a gruesome way before your eyes, the impact is completely different. The comments are still scrolling. Sigh, kid brother is gone. This game's storyline is just too cruel. Little White? Are you scared stiff? Say something. She took several deep breaths to calm her turbulent emotions, her voice slightly hoarse. Guys, this game is so realistic. Just now, I really felt, he was there to save me. Condolences to the streamer, it's just data. This game designer must be a devil. Holy crap! How could they come up with such a plot? Meng Xiaobai was unaware that her live stream's popularity was rapidly increasing. Because of its extremely hardcore, brutal, and highly realistic game content. His popularity skyrocketed. The number of people online at any given time has reached over 500,000, and it has been featured prominently on the platform's homepage rankings. This has also attracted the attention of many people. Having just finished his live stream, Su was about to browse around when he habitually glanced at the homepage and was immediately stunned. Oh my god! A cute little white rabbit. Is this girl really that popular? 500,000 plus views? What new thing is she up to? Could it be that her sister is in the live stream again? Out of curiosity, Su clicked into the live stream. After resting for a while, Meng Xiaobai came to her senses. Brothers, I finally understand. She thought for a moment, then continued her analysis. With these crappy guns and this rabble, there's no way we can defeat that monster head-on. Even a scrape would be difficult. I suspected before that the officers who trained us were just sending us to our deaths. Pure cannon fodder. We can't fight head-on this time. I need to think of a way to find the regular army in this world. We can't just keep resorting to this suicide tactics, can we? Upon re-entering the game, the process remains the same. As she handed the food she had received corpse starch to the little boy, she thought of how he had risked his life to save her in the last battle. Meng Xiaobai gently stroked his dirty hair, her voice soft, "Be careful, stay close to me." The little boy paused for a moment, then nodded vigorously. Next, we entered the training ground according to the storyline. Perhaps it's a change in mindset, or perhaps it's the experience of playing 2 games in a row. Meng Xiaobai felt that he had gained a lot more control over this broken gun. She no longer relied on the off-target aim, but on muscle memory and feeling. Carefully consider its weight, and the approximate direction of its slanted barrel. Brothers, this crappy gun actually has some patterns. She spoke to the live stream audience while adjusting her breathing. Without a crosshair, you have to rely on your instincts. The barrel is crooked, but it's crooked very steadily. Once we find that angle of crookedness. She raised her gun, aimed, but didn't deliberately aim at the bullseye. Bang! 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 3 red beams were fired in succession. Although they still failed to hit the center of the target, at least they didn't miss. Holy crap! It actually hit. Great job, streamer. You've got it. You got the feel for that gun, hey. This marksmanship is completely different from before. This is a significant improvement compared to before when he couldn't even touch the edge of the target. Not only the comments section, but even the training officer who had been looking at them with disdain showed obvious surprise in his eyes. But these things are not enough to change their fate as cannon fodder. Soon, the crowd was once again driven to the giant steel gate. Just as the trainer was about to herd them inside, as before, Meng Xiaobai suddenly stepped forward and blocked his way. Sir! Her voice was clear and strong, interrupting the trainer's reprimand. The training officer's face instantly darkened, and he placed his hand on the stun baton at his waist. You old codger, what are you up to now? Going in there is suicide. Meng Xiaobai stared straight at him and pointed to the door. You know better than we do what kind of enemies are inside. With all this junk we have and less than 10 minutes of training, what use are we besides becoming food for those monsters? This isn't a battle, it's a massacre. The trainer's face twitched a few times as he strode up to Meng Xiaobai, almost touching her face. He growled, to sacrifice yourself for the emperor is your honor. If you dare utter another word, I... Glory! Meng Xiaobai's voice suddenly rose, drowning out his threat. She looked around at the terrified crowd. Look at them. They just want to survive. Give us weapons that can actually cause damage. Instead of using us as cannon fodder like this. You're asking for it. The training officer was completely enraged, and he suddenly raised the stun baton. Just as tensions were about to rise, a calm voice rang out from behind the crowd. She's right. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. They didn't recognize the others, but they recognized Meng Xiaobai and the viewers in the live stream. He's the man who sat alone by the door in the previous rounds, not moving with the crowd. He had stood up and walked over at some point. He didn't look at the furious trainer, but instead turned his gaze to Meng Xiaobai. I noticed your marksmanship in training, it wasn't luck. The man's words were succinct. To survive here, it's not just about blindly obeying orders. We also need clear minds and partners we can rely on. His words were tantamount to directly siding with Meng Xiaobai and openly questioning the trainer's authority. However, the training officer's face turned pale and then red. He stared intently at the man, yet seemed somewhat afraid of him, his lips barely moving. In the end, he could only manage to squeeze out through gritted teeth, "Good, very good." He waved his hand sharply. "If you all come out alive, I'll give you even better weapons." The man ignored him and turned to look at Meng Xiaobai and the bewildered crowd around him. The sound wasn't loud, but it reached everyone's ears clearly. "Those who want to live, pick up your guns and follow us. At least, we know why we're going to die and where to shoot." His words carried a persuasive power born from the crucible of blood and fire. Seeing this, Meng Xiaobai also loudly urged everyone to act together, since more people would mean greater fighting power. Immediately, the crowd, whose survival instincts were ignited by Meng Xiaobai's words and who were also inspired by the man's imposing presence, surged forward. They all huddled closer to Meng Xiaobai and the man, gathering tightly around them. At the same time, a new notification popped up in the status bar. Side quest leadership completed. To ignite a glimmer of light in despair, guiding the lost forward. Mission rewards have been issued. You have obtained the special status, Temporary Leader. Status effect, slightly increases the morale and combat efficiency of nearby friendly units. Current followers, 38/30ths. Overachieved. Tip, the more followers you have, the greater the boost to the status effect. In an instant, an invisible force seemed to spread out from the center of Meng Xiaobai. Through the feedback from the motion sensing suit, he felt his body become lighter and his movements seemed to become faster. The fear and confusion in the eyes of the surrounding crowd had also faded considerably. They instinctively gripped their guns tighter, moved closer together, and their formation became slightly more organized. Chapter 7. As the task rewards are distributed, an invisible force spread out from Meng Xiaobai as the center. Through the feedback from the motion sensing suit, she felt her body become lighter and her movements seemed to become faster. The fear and confusion in the eyes of the surrounding crowd had also faded considerably. They instinctively gripped their guns tighter, moved closer together, and their formation became slightly more organized. Awesome! This is a team buff. The streamer has become a team leader. This guy is so handsome. He seems to have a backstory. 38 people. Mission accomplished beyond target, status effects should have been significantly enhanced as well. Let's go. The man nodded to Meng Xiaobai, his words concise and to the point. He then took the initiative to take up his gun and walked at the front of the group. Meng Xiaobai also took a deep breath, feeling the increase in stamina brought by the mission reward. She looked at the crowd behind her. This invisible amplification of power was collective. Their combat effectiveness must have improved considerably. She shouted, "Everyone, maintain formation. Watch your heads and sides. Listen to me, listen to his commands." After thinking it over, Meng Xiaobai wisely decided to hand over tactical command to the more reliable NPC. Perhaps the game team-made assignments were made because the players were all beginners. The man did not refuse, his deep voice was clearly audible in the corridor. "Everyone, form groups of 3 and spread out to maintain vigilance. Switch the laser guns to single fire to conserve energy. On my command, focus fire." Under his command, and with the amplified effect of Meng Xiaobai's leadership status, this group, which was not long ago a motley crew, has now managed to form a search formation, albeit barely. The man himself seemed to be wandering on the edge of the formation. We've got a formation now. It feels different. This guy is reliable, definitely a professional. Xiao Bai's buff seems to really work. I see those people's hands aren't shaking anymore. The viewers in the live chat also keenly noticed the change. As the group moved forward, the man suddenly stopped abruptly, raised his fist, and made a gesture to stop. Almost simultaneously, from the shadow of a thick pipe to the side and above, a familiar dark figure swooped down with a teeth-grinding scraping sound. It's still that gene stealer. Holy crap! The timing was perfect. Wow! Top-notch predictive ability. This is even more precise than when a newbie died several times. Ha ha ha! Left side. Focus fire, the man shouted sternly. At the same time, he slid to the side, and the laser gun in his hand instantly spewed out a blazing beam of light. Bang! The shot didn't hit the monster's hard torso, but instead struck its weight-bearing forelimb joint precisely. Squeak! The monster let out a sharp, piercing screech. The lunging motion visibly faltered, and the forelimb appeared somewhat unsteady upon landing. Almost at the same moment the man fired his gun, Meng Xiaobai shouted, "Fire!" Although the 30-odd laser beams were still scattered, their accuracy and attack power were much better than before under the influence of the temporary leader aura. Most of the energy struck the gene stealer, and while it was still difficult to inflict fatal damage, the intense energy surges clearly disrupted its balance. It burned its grey skin until it sizzled. Keep the fire. Aim for its head. Meng Xiaobai fired while trying to maintain the line. The gene stealer was clearly enraged by this sudden attack. It roared and brandished its bone blades, attempting to force its way into the enemy lines. But the man's figure moved again, as if by a ghost. He used discarded metal components as cover, constantly changing his position. Each time it appears, it fires a perfectly precise red beam of light. Bang! Another shot hit the joint of the monster's arm as it tried to swing its claw. Bang! The laser grazed its narrow head again, leaving a scorch mark. His marksmanship wasn't about killing with a single shot, but about precisely weakening the monster. Each shot hit a critical spot, disrupting their attack rhythm and creating opportunities for others to suppress the enemy with firepower. Holy crap! That movement! That marksmanship! Awesome! This is a pro! This newbie's buff is amazing! Aside from this guy, the other NPC's aim is practically like they're using aimbot. With the man's precise pinpoint fire and the concentrated suppression from the others, this gene-stealing creature, which had previously slaughtered them so easily, was effectively stopped. It roared angrily, adding new scorch marks to its body, and its movements became increasingly frenzied. However, they were unable to break through this small network of firepower. Finally, in one of its reckless advances, it was shot in the knee by the man. In the instant it lost its balance, a dense laser beam enveloped its head. Number and. Accompanied by a shrill scream that was difficult to decipher, the gene stealer's body fell heavily to the ground. It twitched a few times, then stopped moving. We won! Holy crap! We won! First kill! First team kill! Tears welling up, at least I wasn't instantly killed. The surviving team members cheered with relief, their eyes filled with trust as they looked at the man and the adorable little white rabbit. Meng Xiaobai breathed a sigh of relief and looked at the man. She couldn't help but ask, "Dude, your marksmanship is amazing. You're not an ordinary person, are you?" The man wiped the gun barrel, glanced indifferently at Meng Xiaobai, then walked to the monster's corpse and fired several more shots. Former Sergeant Layton, 114th Regiment, Muingsa Interstellar Army. The Star Guardians. No wonder they're so fierce. They look like a regular army. That sounds really awesome. You even understand the importance of last hitting. 2 shots to the chest and 1 to the head. Even a miracle couldn't save him. How did a regular army sergeant end up here? And being used as cannon fodder? Is there some hidden mission going on? As soon as the man revealed his identity, the viewers in the live chat began to speculate. Layton didn't explain why he was there, but simply said in a deep voice, "Everyone, don't let your guard down. This is just a wounded enemy." Meng Xiaobai was also curious, but no new terms popped up, so she had no idea what this astral army was. "I simply assumed this was a powerful teammate feature designed by the game developers." In her view, this was nothing more than a teammate NPC that the developers gave to novice players in order to reduce the difficulty of the early stages of the game. After dealing with the insect, the group continued onward, eventually stopping at a fork in the road. The passage splits in two here, with the left side sloping downwards, from which a damp, cold breeze seems to blow out. The one to the right is relatively flat, but winding and twisting. The game here offers absolutely no hints or guidance, completely handing over the choice to the players. Two paths. Meng Xiaobai frowned. Neither road appears to have any obvious features. However, there are some faint carving marks around one of the passages. However, most of them have been brutally damaged, making it difficult to recognize their original appearance. At a relatively wide corner, there was the wreckage of a giant statue that had been overturned and smashed. An older man saw the stone head wearing a laurel wreath on the ground and suddenly knelt down in excitement. A trembling voice, "The Emperor, this is a statue of the Emperor. By the Emperor. He has not abandoned us." At his shout, more than a dozen people in the group knelt down and began to pray in hushed tones, their faces radiating an almost fanatical devotion. Emperor. Is this game set in a religiously governed society? Even the adorable little white rabbit remembered it when it heard this name. The officer who sent them here as cannon fodder always kept mentioning the Emperor's favor. Meng Xiaobai pouted and looked at the little boy she had placed in the group. This Emperor isn't any better. He's sending children to the battlefield. She opened the quest log again. The main quest is to explore the anomalies occurring here and hold out until the Emperor's angels arrive. Meng Xiaobai pondered, since there's an Emperor's statue here, there might be something related to the mission below. Let's go this way. After choosing a direction, the group continued walking forward in formation. As they were leaving the ruins, someone accidentally kicked away several pieces of rubble covering the ground. But nobody noticed. Beneath the rubble, another smaller but relatively well-preserved statue was revealed. The statue's head also wears a laurel wreath, is clad in magnificent armor, and has a dignified expression. But what's extremely strange is that four arms are growing from the shoulders of this imperial statue. The ends of the two extra arms were not human hands. Instead, they are sharp, bony claws. Chapter 8. Led by Meng Xiaobai, the team cautiously proceeded along the chosen path. As the group ventured deeper, Meng Xiaobai could clearly sense that something seemed to be moving in the network of pipes overhead and in the shadows on either side. A faint, unsettling rustling sound could be heard from time to time. She kept everyone on alert, but the anticipated attack did not occur. The deeper you go, the more branching paths you'll encounter. Suddenly, a team member on the flank whispered, "Someone's there." Everyone immediately tensed up and raised their guns to aim. At the fork in the road and on the metal platform not far ahead, several figures dressed in wide black robes stood silently. They stood motionless like statues, their faces hidden in the deep shadows of their hoods. "Who? Hello? Who are you?" Meng Xiaobai tried calling out to them. There was no response. The figures in black robes remained standing silently, as if they had blended into the surrounding darkness. "Can you hear me? What's happening here?" another team member shouted. At that moment, the black-robed figure closest to them slowly raised a hand and pointed in a certain direction of the passage. Then it returned to stillness. "Did you give me directions? This must be an NPC's guide." There's not even an exclamation mark above the character's head, this game's UI is way too simplistic. Let's go take a look. Maybe we can trigger a quest. When Meng Xiaobai heard this in the chat, he breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed to be part of the game's mechanics. Brothers, looks like this is the game's tutorial, but the way it's being done is a bit creepy. Let's go and take a look, following his directions. Layton frowned, but having already ventured this far, he had no better option. The only thing they could do was signal the team to be on high alert and proceed in the direction the man in black had indicated. Along the way, they encountered several more groups of men in black robes. They are all like silent road signs, silently pointing in the same direction. This consistent direction gradually dispelled most of Meng Xiaobai's doubts. Moreover, there has been no attack so far. As they continued forward, the passage gradually widened. Finally, they entered a relatively open square. The square is extremely spacious, yet it is hidden among layers of buildings. Moreover, the entire path leads downwards, making it extremely difficult to find the square without directions. The sky above the square was also completely dark. It was only then that Meng Xiaobai realized that he hadn't seen the sky since he entered the game. Brothers, where exactly are we right now? The square is surrounded by tall, rusty metal walls. Sparse lights shone down from above, illuminating the central scene. There stands a tall sculpture. I vaguely remember seeing an imperial sculpture before, but it was 50 or 60 meters tall. But when they got closer and saw the sculpture in its entirety, everyone gasped. It was not the solemn imperial statue they had seen before. The statue roughly retains the outline of a human, but 4 arms are conspicuously growing from its shoulders. The 2 extra arms had grotesque, scythe-like claws at their ends. The statue's face is blurred, yet it exudes a chilling aura of majesty. More distorted, more bizarre. Holy crap! 4 hands! What the hell is this thing? This is what an emperor looks like? You must be kidding. Damn! This is definitely a cult, they send kids to war like that. This is the emperor. Meng Xiaobai looked up at the tall sculpture, momentarily stunned. This is what these people believe in. At the same time, a new panel pops up in front of your field of vision. Entry unlocked, 4-armed God Emperor statue. Brief description: strange statues appearing in certain secret locations within the lower nest, their appearance drastically different from the Holy Emperor widely propagated by the state religion. It is often closely associated with the activities of certain secret cults considered heretical, and its specific origins and meanings have been classified as taboo knowledge by the imperial censorship authorities. Meng Xiaobai looked at the entry, her mind a little confused. Just then, some figures slowly appeared at the edge of the square. The black-robed figures who had originally guided them here seemed to have received a silent command, and slowly gathered from all directions, standing quietly. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, they simultaneously reached up and removed their hoods. What was revealed were distorted and mutated faces. Its skin is an unnatural grayish-purple color, smooth and lacking in hair. Strange fleshy bumps and wrinkles are present on the forehead, cheeks, and other areas. While most of them still retain a basic human form, some are exceptionally tall and robust. Some of them even had 4 arms growing from their bodies. Holy crap! What are these things? A mutant. Upon closer inspection, it does resemble that 4-armed God Emperor. Are they in cahoots with the bugs? The barrage of comments exploded instantly, and even the nauseous newbie felt a chill run down his spine and his stomach churn. However, these hideous mutants did not launch an attack. They slowly moved forward, forming a semicircle, and stared at Meng Xiaobai and her group with fervent eyes. Then, they all suddenly knelt down in unison. Facing the 4-armed god statue in the center of the square, he devoutly chanted in a strange tone that was a mixture of hoarseness and shrillness. Praise be to the descending angels. The God Emperor's will ultimately be fulfilled. New flesh and blood, a new cycle of reincarnation. An. Angel. Meng Xiaobai was completely bewildered. My mission was to wait for the angels to descend. Could it be that I've accomplished it? She instinctively brought up the taskbar, but there were no notifications yet. The thought had barely formed in her mind when, as if in response to the prayers of those kneeling in worship, she realized it. Crack, crack, whoosh. A rustling sound came from above their heads. The sound grew more and more frequent and louder until it finally sounded like a torrential downpour striking metal. Everyone looked up in horror. All that could be seen were the tall walls surrounding the square, and the large pipes and vents in the ceiling. Like a flood bursting its banks, countless gene stealers surged forth. They came in various shapes and sizes, some of which were similar to those they had seen before. Some are smaller, while others are more robust. The sheer number of them. It cascaded down the walls and ceiling like a black tide. The mutated beings who were kneeling in worship, instead of being afraid of this horrific scene, worshipped even more fervently. The chanting grew even louder. Angels have descended. We will be purified. The Emperor's angels. How beautiful! Praise be to the God Emperor. Fire! Fire! Fire at will! While the others were stunned by fear, Layton's roar suddenly exploded. His laser gun fired, instantly knocking down several monsters that lunged at him. Shoot! Shoot now! Meng Xiaobai reacted quickly, screaming as she pulled the trigger. The red laser beams shot into the surging swarm of insects, but they were instantly swallowed up by more and more dark shadows, as if they had sunk into the sea. Oh no! Little White is going to die again. Holy crap! This number, how can we possibly win? No. Where am I? To be honest, I'm a little confused too. There are so many monsters here, and the officers only sent so few people, mostly the old, weak, and disabled. The comments kept popping up, but Meng Xiaobai didn't have time to pay attention. The firepower network formed by a team of more than 30 people was as fragile as paper in the face of this terrifying swarm of insects. The laser beam could only temporarily delay the impact in a localized area, but more gene stealers swooped down from the flanks and overhead. Screams, gunshots, the sound of bone blades tearing through flesh, and the fanatical chants of the mutants, all mingled together in a chaotic cacophony. Meng Xiaobai watched as her teammates were tackled and torn to pieces one by one. Layton fought bravely among the swarm, but was quickly overwhelmed by the sheer number of gene stealers. Just as Meng Xiaobai was about to shout, she suddenly felt a chill down her back. Before I could even feel the pain, a cold bone blade pierced through my chest. The next moment, a sharp pain shot through me, and my vision was swallowed by darkness. The last thing she heard was the increasingly frenzied cheers of the mutants. Praise be to the four-armed Emperor! Angels! The angels accepted them. Your flesh and blood have returned to all living beings. Chapter 9. This is outrageous. Meng Xiaobai ripped off the helmet and slammed it onto the soft carpet at her feet. She initially thought those men in black robes were NPCs guiding the game, but it turned out they were actually mutants working with the monsters. This game is so twisted. Brothers, how do you play this? Hey? Tell me how to play this. She loudly complained to the livestream audience. With the sheer number of monsters in that plaza, even if there were 300 of us, let alone 30 or so, we'd be easy prey with these crappy laser guns. This is a complete dead end. The comments section, however, was filled with laughter. Haha, the streamer broke down. Actually, you've improved a lot, Xiaobai. If it weren't for the leader's aura from the side quest, you wouldn't even have been able to beat the first one, ha ha ha. Indeed, with the buff, the monster's attack animation slowed down considerably, which translates to your movements becoming much faster, otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to dodge those initial attacks. And didn't the system match you with powerful teammates? The Astral Army, what amazing teammates! The main problem is the sheer number of monsters. It doesn't feel like a level where you can just brute force your way through. Meng Xiaobai also thought there was some truth to that. It shouldn't be a matter of brute force, otherwise the current combat strength of the team would definitely not be enough. Then a few more comments appeared on the screen. Little White, it seems you unlocked several new terms and achievements when you died. Check out the entry. There's a more detailed database available elsewhere. Yes. Let's see what this monster is. Reminded by the comments, Meng Xiaobai quickly grabbed her water glass and gulped down a few mouthfuls to calm herself down. Entries? Achievements? Let me see. She put her device back on, entered the game's main interface, and sure enough, found a new hint in the menu. Achievement system unlocked. New achievement obtained, first encounter with the angel, bronze. Description, first ever witness to the worship ceremony of the Tyranid gene stealer race. Survival time, 5 minutes. Evaluation, you are honored to have been part of the ceremony. What the hell? It's become part of the ritual. Meng Xiaobai stared at this achievement, her lips twitching. That thing, it can't be the angel from my main quest, can it? She closed the achievements page and clicked on the glossary section, which was flashing with notification lights. The two entries she had previously unlocked in the game, Gene Stealer and Four-Armed God Emperor statue, were prominently listed. Furthermore, the icon's edges are shimmering, indicating that more in-depth content is available for further exploration. Guys, the dictionary has been updated. Let me see what this damn thing is all about. The newbie first clicked on Gene Stealer. The interface went dark instantly, as if all the light had been sucked away. Immediately afterwards, a deep, engine-like background sound slowly began to rise. A scene resembling a documentary unfolded before her eyes. In the field of vision, the first thing is the dark and cold depths of space, dotted with countless stars. A sense of antiquity and vastness washes over you. A calm voiceover rang out, carrying the solemnity of reading from an archive. File index, Xenos Bio 005. Threat level, extinction order. The camera zooms in, focusing on a giant merchant ship slowly sailing through a sea of stars. The camera pierces through the heavy armor plating and enters the dimly lit cargo hold. A crew member hiding in the shadows watched in horror as a thin figure silently crawled out of the ventilation duct. It was the gene thief that Meng Xiaobai had encountered earlier. Gene stealers, pioneers, and infiltrators of the Tyranid swarm. They are not natural creations, but rather hybrid variants bred from the original units through a special method of infection, which distorted native organisms, usually humans. The scene changes, displaying 3D models of gene stealers from different generations. Its reproduction follows a specific sequence of purity degradation. Gene stealers are capable of independent thought and action without the command of the hive's will. Given enough time, a gene stealer can secretly infect and take over an entire planet. Gene thieves, also known as gene thieves, are people who steal genes. Its long tongue is actually an ovipositor with a barbed tip, which it uses to grab sentient humanoid creatures. Then, using an ovipositor, seeds containing Tyranid genes are inserted into the host's body. These seeds will gradually absorb and assimilate the host's genetic material. This process is known as the gene stealer's kiss. Their tongues can often accurately locate the mouth and then directly reach the stomach, or they may even perform a thoracentesis for injection. Some gene-stealing cults have also found ways to extract these seeds and use them to contaminate food and medicine. Their infection spread was thus no longer limited to their area of activity. First generation. Regardless of the implantation method, these gene seeds can alter the host's physical and psychological state within hours. The host will forget the infection process and automatically submit to the will of the gene thief, while simultaneously developing an uncontrollable and intense reproductive urge, desperately wanting to find someone to have children with. Once mating is complete, the host and their partner will produce a first-generation hybrid of severely deformed gene stealers. They usually escape into dark tunnels, catacombs, or sewers to avoid being discovered because their cunning is too obvious. But this organism can establish hive-like connections between itself, its parents, and the gene stealer itself. And from birth, they possess the ability to kill hostile creatures in their vicinity. This connection and the mutations brought about by the cunning seed can distort the thinking of the host's parents. They are made to unconditionally love their inhuman children and to venerate the gene stealer as a god or a divine messenger. Therefore, many gene-stealing cult members appear as emperor worshippers. He appears perfectly normal. Besides the four-armed god emperor statue hanging around his neck. Some of them genuinely believed they were worshipping an emperor, not a space monster. These infected individuals, and their ever-growing hybrid offspring, will eventually come together. This forms a large, loyal family that surrounds the gene stealer. As the family grows, they will eventually form a gene-stealing cult. Gene stealers and hybrids will continue to interbreed with cult members or trafficked people. In this way, they were kept by their side as breeding stock and nannies. Hybrid. The second generation will exhibit fewer of the cunning traits, and this will continue to change in the third generation. The fourth generation cunning hybrid has slightly purplish skin, a plate-like protrusion on its forehead, and is born bald. Their appearance is now almost indistinguishable from that of ordinary humans. Only some non-human features were retained, such as grayish-purple skin and a sarcoma on the forehead. They infiltrate every level of human society, spreading like a virus, silently expanding their sex, and accumulating power for the final coming day. The footage began to shift to fast-paced editing. A fourth-generation creature kills and replaces a worker at the bottom of the hive. A third generation being ripped through an entire squad of guards with a bone blade from the shadows, a second generation being infected a young girl. They possess near-perfect stealth abilities and strength and speed far exceeding those of ordinary people. However, by the fifth generation, gene stealers will exhibit atavism, reverting to pure-blooded gene stealers. A new wave of infections can begin. The scene changed again, showing the grayish-purple mutated beings they had just seen, likely fourth-generation mutants. Their eyes were vacant as they knelt before the statue of the four-armed god. These distorted infected individuals and mutants constitute the lower echelons of the gene stealer cult. They viewed the tyrannid swarm as angels bringing purification and sublimation, and eagerly awaited the arrival of the main swarm. To sacrifice the entire planet, even the entire galaxy, to that eternal hunger. It devours all living things. The Great Devourer. Finally, the image settled on a blurry scan of a star map. It was a vast, boundless shadow composed of countless biological ships. It is hurtling towards a galaxy that is emitting a faint glow. The fleets were so vast that even galaxies seem tiny. Background music begins. And they are merely the harbinger of destruction, a plague upon the stars. It was the first claw the tyrannid swarm extended into the civilized world. The video ends, and the interface returns to brightness. Meng Xiaobai and the entire audience in the live stream were stunned for a long time. I'm so damn angry. This setting is freaking grand. So those men in black robes were followers who had been infected for generations. Terran, Mega Devourer, sounds like it's going to make your sanity drop. Wow! This isn't a wasteland, it's a space-age sci-fi setting. Meng Xiaobai felt a little dry in her throat. She had initially thought it was some mutated beast or a localized disaster, never imagining it was backed by such a terrifying being capable of devouring the stars. She took a deep breath and opened the second entry, Four-Armed God Emperor Statue. This time, instead of a video, what appeared was a document marked Top Secret of the Trial Chamber, dissemination strictly prohibited. Heretical idol, the Four-Armed God Emperor. It is the core symbol of worship for the Gene Stealers cult. This idol distorts and profanes the image of the Divine Emperor. Its four-armed design is intended to allude to the true object of its worship. The first generation of Gene Stealers with 4 arms, also known as the Patriarch. The sect uses this idol to exert mental control and indoctrinate its misled believers. This led them to regard the clan leader as the representative or even the embodiment of the divine emperor in the mortal realm, and to willingly dedicate everything to him, including their own flesh and blood and their descendants. Any imperial unit that encounters this heretical symbol is obligated to destroy it immediately. All relevant contacts were subjected to the highest level of purification. At the end of the document, the word purify was highlighted in bold red. Meng Xiaobai exited the dictionary and fell into a brief silence. The number of viewers in her live stream had quietly approached 800,000 while she was watching the video related to the topic. This is a hardcore, dark game with a vast and well-developed world. It has brought unparalleled appeal to the viewers. A few seconds later, Meng Xiaobai suddenly raised her head, her eyes filled with intense excitement. Brothers! I get it! Her voice trembled with excitement. This isn't a beginner's village at all. This is a highly challenging pre-game story level. As stated in the main quest, our objective is not to kill them all. They are the angels who explored the anomalies and persevered until the Emperor arrived. I misunderstood before. I thought we were going to fight head-on. It seems that if we can figure out how to survive in that hellhole longer, and even find a crucial clue, we might trigger a real rescue. This time, let's try a different strategy. No brute force, let's outsmart them. I refuse to believe it. Is this game really designed with an absolute death trap? She took a deep breath and clicked on the restart button on the screen. Chapter 10. As the game resumed, the light and shadow before our eyes began to rearrange themselves. Meng Xiaobai was surprised to find that she was not at the familiar corpse starch collection point. Instead, they stood directly at the previous fork in the road, with the road to the right leading to the four-armed Emperor Plaza. She immediately opened the task interface, and sure enough, the main quest progress bar for exploring the Hive City's anomalies has jumped from 5% to 42%. Did you guys see that? She exclaimed excitedly. Save my progress. This really is a beginner's exploration storyline. My previous death can be seen as a process of accumulating information. This game design is pretty good. The save point has been updated. Hey streamer, what game is this? Just arrived, what's the situation now? Meng Xiaobai took a deep breath and quickly organized her thoughts. Based on the information displayed in the entry, and according to the number of thieves we just encountered, this area is probably already under the control of the cunning cult. Those mutants and believers are proof. That square we went to earlier is definitely one of their key hideouts. She looked at the road leading to the square, now marked as explored on her map, still feeling lingering fear. That's a dead end, going there now is suicide. The so-called angels shouldn't be those pure-blooded cunning bastards. She turned her gaze to another passage. We must find another way out, or find a way to hold out until the real angels arrive. This way, Meng Xiaobai said firmly, pointing to the unknown passage. Leighton nodded without asking any further questions. After briefly checking the energy cartridge of his laser gun, he once again stepped to the front of the group to act as the vanguard. Stay alert, the quiet here doesn't mean it's safe. The new passage was longer than expected, and the surroundings were eerily silent. 20 minutes later, the view suddenly opened up. A small outpost came into view, but it was clear that a fierce battle had taken place there. The blast door was violently torn apart, the interior was in a mess, and the walls were covered with laser burn marks and blackened bloodstains. Search and see if there's anything we can use, Meng Xiaobai ordered. Under the influence of the leader's aura, some people in the crowd carried out orders and carefully searched the area. Soon, some things were placed in front of Meng Xiaobai. Item obtained, unused laser gun energy battery X5. Items obtained, medkit, basic, X2. Map discovery, partial view of H7 area in the lower level of the hive. Here's a journal. A team member pulled a stained notebook from under a filing cabinet. Meng Xiaobai took it and quickly flipped through it. It contained some fragmented notes. H7 area is completely out of contact, the reconnaissance team has not returned. They came out of the pipes, even from among us. John's skin turned grey. Communication was cut off, we were abandoned. They're actually kneeling and worshipping a monster. By the Emperor's grace, they've all gone mad. Everyone's gone mad. The last message has been sent via the deep orbit communication array. Prayers will be answered, for the Emperor. Just as Meng Xiaobai was flipping through the log, a noise suddenly came from the storage room in the corner. Leighton instantly raised his gun and aimed, "Come out." Several ragged men, but dressed in defense uniforms, walked out shakily. The leader was a sergeant with a missing arm, who stared at Meng Xiaobai and the others in shock. Are you alive? Or are you monsters in disguise? We just came down from up there, Meng Xiaobai explained. What happened here? The sergeant said bitterly, we are the garrison of H7 outpost. A year ago, the entire area began to show abnormalities. First, people went missing, then mutations occurred. We sent countless distress signals, but the only response was that the situation was under control. He gritted his teeth, until 3 months ago, they suddenly cut off all communications. Then they started driving some people down. Holy crap! Could it be that some of the higher UPS have been manipulated by cunning individuals? Ah! So that's how it is. So these people were originally sent to their deaths. Is this a continuous process of purging those who haven't been infected, or is it simply providing a breeding ground for those cunning individuals to incubate their next generation? Hearing this, Meng Xiaobai suddenly realized why they were able to drive him down with just a broken gun. But she quickly calmed down. So, the distress call was indeed sent. The sergeant nodded. Yes, we activated the distress beacon before communications were cut off. If anyone in the Empire is still paying attention here, they should be able to receive the signal. After their identities were confirmed, the 8 surviving guards joined the ranks. With 46 followers now, Meng Xiaobai felt that the amplification effect of the temporary leader aura had increased somewhat. The group continued their exploration and soon discovered more supplies in a storage warehouse. This includes some food and obviously more powerful standard weapons. Meng Xiaobai checked her stamina and found she had less than a third left. She realized there were consequences for not eating the corpse starch earlier. Just as everyone began distributing supplies, the ventilation duct overhead suddenly ruptured. A cunning little chicken pounced straight down. Watch out! Leighton reacted first, but he was holding food in his hand. Meng Xiaobai reacted even faster. She turned sideways, raised her gun, aimed, and fired in one fluid motion. Bang! 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 3 shots accurately hit the same forelimb joint of the monster. The gene stealer screamed in agony, its attack completely distorted, and it staggered and fell to the ground. Leighton fired a few more shots, and the rest of the group swarmed in and finished it off. Everyone was stunned. The newly recruited sergeant's eyes widened. That marksmanship, are you really a downhill hunter? This ability has been amplified so much. And there's the experience of dying and surviving. With that marksmanship, all those deaths weren't for nothing. The streamer will remember how many times he dies, there'll be a swimsuit punishment later. Meng Xiaobai was also somewhat surprised by his own shooting skills. It seems that playing a few more rounds did have its benefits. Moreover, the attack power boost from the temporary leader's aura, combined with the new firearms, resulted in significantly greater damage to these monsters. Leighton, who was standing next to her, gave her a deep look, said nothing, but his eyes showed a hint of approval. The group then quickly cleared out a relatively safe area. Leighton began the deployment. We'll rest here for 10 minutes. Sergeant, you take 2 men to guard the east side of the passage, the west side is our responsibility. The rest of you check the equipment and distribute ammunition. Meng Xiaobai stared at the map, lost in thought. Now that the distress signal has been sent, the so-called angels are likely already on their way. All they have to do now is survive. Hold on until rescue arrives. Chapter 11. After resting, the team continued along the passage. The deeper you go, the more horrific the scene becomes. The walls were covered with crisscrossing claw marks, and broken weapons and mutilated corpses were scattered on the ground. The air was thick with the stench of blood and an indescribable, sour, putrid smell. How many people must have died? It looks like they were ambushed, they didn't even have time to react. Be careful, newbie, something feels off here. The comments in the live chat were not without merit. Meng Xiaobai noticed that the wounds on these corpses were slightly different from those they had encountered before. It became even more ferocious, as if the attackers' strength and speed had suddenly increased here. Hurry up, we can't stay here any longer. Leighton said in a deep voice, his intuition sensing a potential threat. The group quickened their pace and finally stopped at a relatively open hub station. Ahead, a heavy explosion-proof gate was tightly shut due to a power outage. Sparks flew from the control panel next to the gate, it was clearly completely damaged. No, it won't open. After trying a few times, a technician gave up in frustration. Look over there, a team member pointed to a reinforced weapons crate in the corner of the hub. The container had been forcibly pried open, and inside lay several thick, long, homemade armor-piercing explosives and several flamethrowers. Now we have something substantial. This is great stuff. Finally, it's not that crappy gun anymore. Equip it quickly. Without a word, the trained garrison soldiers in the ranks immediately stepped forward and skillfully inspected the heavy weapons. Just then, that chilling rustling sound rang out again. But this time, the source of the sound was no longer the pipes overhead, but the passage they had just walked through. The adorable little white rabbit was at a loss when Leighton immediately ordered, "Establish a defensive line. Quickly." Everyone quickly built fortifications using the gates and scattered containers. The laser gun and flamethrower were both adjusted to be ready to fire, and the armor-piercing explosives were placed within easy reach. The next moment, a black wave surged in from both ends of the passage. This time, the number of gene stealers far exceeds that of any previous instance. Their forms also appear more aggressive, and their charging speed is astonishing. "Fire!" the little white robot screamed. The laser beams were fired all at once, densely packed like rain. The flamethrower spewed out a fire dragon tens of meters long, instantly igniting the monster charging at the front and emitting a pungent, acrid smell. However, these cunning individuals seemed to completely disregard the casualties, continuing their charge over the burning bodies of their comrades. Due to their sheer number, these thieves actually managed to knock down the dilapidated metal fence at the edge of the hub station in the crowd. With a piercing metallic creak, a large number of monsters fell into the bottomless maintenance shaft below. Just as Meng Xiaobai was about to be happy, she peeked out and her heart sank. Those cunning chickens that fell didn't reach the bottom, their sharp claws easily pierced the concrete walls of the shaft. Like a nimble gecko, it's climbing up from below at an even faster speed. Down there! They're coming up from below! Meng Xiaobai shouted again. The adorable newbie really didn't want to experience the continuous deaths again, and was now screaming without any regard for her image. This woman is completely terrified, ha ha ha. I told you long ago, woman, you're playing with fire. Meng Xiaobai can no longer hear the comments, she's now under attack from all sides. The defenses began to fall into chaos, and the team members had to deal with attacks from two directions at the same time, which greatly increased the pressure. Screams began to ring out one after another. Meng Xiaobai glanced at the taskbar subconsciously, task progress, 80.1%. Moreover, this number was visibly fluctuating under her gaze, 80.2%, 80.3%. With the mission almost complete, Meng Xiaobai absolutely did not want to go back in time and face those densely packed monsters again. Never mind. I can't fail here. We absolutely cannot afford to fail at the last hurdle. Brothers. Let's fight them. Meng Xiaobai's voice cracked with excitement. But his hand movements were unusually steady, and the laser gun precisely targeted the monsters that tried to approach. Leighton. Use that. Explosives. Blow up this platform. Bury them all. Leighton kicked the monster in front of him away. Without hesitation, he grabbed a heavy armor-piercing explosive and quickly set the detonation program. Cover him. Everyone, provide cover fire. Meng Xiaobai shouted at the top of her lungs, while simultaneously turning the laser gun's energy output to maximum. Ignoring warnings about the gun overheating, they relentlessly unleashed firepower at the swarming insects. The surviving team members also opened fire with all their weapons to buy time for Leighton. Leighton then flipped over and leaped to the weakest point of the platform structure. After planting the explosives, he shouted, "Retreat! Quickly retreat to the tunnel!" The group retreated while firing. Meng Xiaobai was the last to retreat into the passage. Looking back, Leighton suddenly pressed the detonator. Bang! A deafening roar was followed by a violent shockwave. The entire hub platform was torn to pieces in the flames. Along with the shattered structures, countless gene stealers once again plunged into the abyss of darkness. The shockwave from the explosion sent everyone flying, slamming them against the tunnel walls. Meng Xiaobai felt tinnitus and dizziness, and her throat was filled with the taste of gunpowder. Cough cough. Anyone still alive? Say something, she called out in a hoarse voice. Leighton was the first to get up and quickly counted the number of people. After the bloody battle and explosions, the team is down to less than 30 people. Awesome. Now it should be quiet, right? The casualties are huge. The explosion just now seemed to have blown a hole through that area. Following the prompts in the live chat, Meng Xiaobai looked towards the epicenter of the explosion. There, she saw an irregularly shaped hole blasted open in one side of the previously sealed hub station wall. The light shining from outside the cave was no longer the dim artificial light of the Nest City, but a hazy natural light, accompanied by the howling wind. Is that outside? Meng Xiaobai was incredulous. She had originally thought this lousy game only had indoor scenes. After all, even these indoor scenes took me a long time to explore. They even created external content. Just how big is this map? A free game, and you're still going all out with this much money. Let's go. Let's get out of here. Meng Xiaobai decided immediately. The group helped each other as they crawled through the falling rubble and emerged from the hole. In an instant, the vast sky replaced the oppressive metal dome. Grayish-white clouds hung low, and a cold wind carrying the smell of gunpowder and blood rushed towards us. Meng Xiaobai and all the team members from the lower nest subconsciously squinted their eyes. This was a first for many of them, the first time they had ever seen the real sky. However, beneath this vast sky lies not a scene of hope. Your Majesty! The one-armed sergeant groaned in near despair. When Meng Xiaobai looked up, she felt a chill run down her spine. The grayish-white clouds were torn apart by countless enormous, tumor-like things. Like meteorites, they trailed trails of slime and flame, crashing densely against the magnificent buildings above. Further into the sky, countless chunks of flesh rained down like a storm, shattering instantly upon impact with the ground. And emerging from it was a tidal wave of insects. This is the Terran. Meng Xiaobai recalled the previous entry's description. Gene stealers were merely the vanguard and infiltrators. So that means, what lies before me now is the mighty Zerg army. Meanwhile, new panels kept popping up in her field of vision. Encounter Unit, Terran Zerg, Biological Fleet. Encountered Unit, Terran Zerg, Gun Bug. Encountered Unit, Terran, Gargoyle. Encountered Unit, Terran Zerg, Terran Warrior. Overwhelmed by the flood of information, Meng Xiaobai was completely stunned. Looking at those monsters wielding bone blades and spraying live ammunition. There are also enormous insects, like living battering rams. There were even swarms of aerial units circling overhead. Above ground lay burning ruins and countless defensive lines. The planetary defense forces, dressed in military uniforms, unleashed a barrage of fire from behind their bunkers. They were armed with massive, heavily armed weapons, the muzzle flashes creating a deadly metal storm. This is a battlefield on a planetary scale. It was so grand it was suffocating, so cruel it was despairing. I'm FG. Is this the end of the world? So the previous gene stealers were really just an appetizer. Hey streamer, look at the task. Meng Xiaobai suddenly snapped out of her daze and looked at the task bar. Task progress, 95.3%. And the speed at which the progress bar jumps. It seems to be faster than before. Chapter 12. Holy crap, this game's scale is amazing. It's way better than those cartoon games I played before the stream. I thought the map was huge when I was in the hive, but it turns out the outside world is the real world. Is this how a free-to-play game turns out? Was the development team just working out of love? Is this really a game? Are you sure it's not movie special effects? Newbie here, what game is this? Did the streamer get a test qualification by luck? Xiaobai is going to be a sensation. This live stream is definitely going to trend on social media. As the chat was flooded with comments, Meng Xiaobai's live stream viewership was skyrocketing at a visible rate. 500,000, 550,000, 600,000. The number of online users continues to break new records. It surged to second place on the live streaming platform's real-time popularity chart, just one step away from the top spot. But at this moment, she had no time to pay attention to what was happening in the live stream, all her attention was drawn to the enemy in front of her. Having finally made it this far, Meng Xiaobai really doesn't want to die a few more times. Fire! Keep firing! Don't let them get any closer! Meng Xiaobai screamed at the top of her lungs, the laser gun in her hand so hot she could barely hold it, but she had no time to care. She and the remaining team members were trapped at the edge of the blasted hole, with the main force of the Tyranids surging like a tide in front of them. The massive Tyrannosaurus warriors caused the ground to tremble with every step they took. Wielding their scythe-like forelimbs, they easily tore soldiers and their vehicles to shreds behind cover. The sky was filled with a dense barrage of live ammunition, which exploded into disgusting green slime on the defensive line. Ammunition! Does anyone have any energy cells? A soldier shouted. Here you go. Meng Xiaobai tossed over a spare battery. Her movements were already quite practiced, all thanks to the experience she had gained from several near-death experiences. Damn it! Meng Xiaobai yelled as she changed the energy battery. If I'd known it was a battlefield outside, I'd rather be down here playing with those cunning bastards. Is it too late to regret it now? Ha ha ha, is the streamer scared now? Wasn't it pretty cool when you blew up the tunnel just now? Want to go back? Easy, just die once and reload the save, ha ha ha. Look to the left. What's that? The barrage of comments made Meng Xiaobai turn her head sharply, only to see a group of soldiers falling in droves on the left defensive line. Their bodies were pierced by some kind of sharp bone spur, and the wounds quickly rotted and turned black. Those are live ammunition for the Tyrannosaurus Rex, once hit, there's no chance of recovery. Watch out for crossfire. Alternate cover. Layton's roar remained clear amidst the explosions as he directed the survivors to use flamethrowers to block the cave entrance. The blazing fire dragon temporarily halted the advance of the insect swarm on the ground. Just then, a sharp screech came from afar, and a group of creatures with leathery wings were swooping down. They have membranous wings similar to those of bats, but their heads resemble skin skulls with exposed sharp teeth. Their chests were riddled with countless holes for launching bone spikes. These were clearly the very things that had just claimed the lives of the soldiers on the left flank. It's a gargoyle. Meng Xiaobai recognized it. There was a picture of it in the pop-up search results. Under a round of attacks from the enemy, the defensive line began to collapse. The team, which originally consisted of more than 30 people, is now reduced to less than 20. The little white dog hid behind cover, constantly looking for opportunities to fire. Her arm was scraped by a rock, and blood dripped from her fingertips. Although it wasn't fatal, she felt it was only a matter of time. Suddenly, the ground began to shake. This tremor was completely different from the previous ones. It wasn't the shock from an explosion. Rather, it was a deeper, more intense tremor that caused even the frenzied Zerg to hesitate for a moment. Immediately following was a continuous rumbling sound from afar, as if some enormous object was breaking through the atmosphere. Below her field of vision, Meng Xiaobai saw the progress bar on the taskbar jumping wildly. 98.7%. 98.8%. 98.9%. Brothers, hold on. She wiped the blood from her face, though she had no idea what was about to happen. But she could sense that something was approaching at high speed. So his voice inevitably became excited. Reinforcements are coming. After dying so many times, am I finally going to beat the game? The next moment, the sky was suddenly torn apart by a blinding white light. That was the intense glow produced when something broke through the atmosphere. Dozens of burning metal behemoths tore through the clouds, hurtling straight into the battlefield with the force of thunder. It landed precisely on the densest part of the swarm, and the impact sent all the surrounding tyrannid creatures flying. The first metal hull to landed several hundred meters in front of Meng Xiaobai. She could see the cabin emitting scorching white steam, and the metal surface was dark red from the friction caused by the high temperature. The next second, the hatch exploded open. A giant clad in blue armor strode out. He was taller than any character the newbie had ever seen in the game, and his entire body was covered in heavy armor. The metallic surface gleamed with a cold light in the firelight, on the shoulder armor. It is a peculiar emblem. The weapon he held in his hand had an ancient design yet was full of power. It resembled a sword, or perhaps a chainsaw. At that moment, a sword worm swooped down, hissing. Seemingly spotting an enemy, the serrated blades on that strange weapon began to spin at high speed, emitting a chilling hum. The giant didn't move a step. He swung his weapon, and the spinning serrated blades sliced through the monster charging at him in half like a hot knife through butter. His actions were precise and efficient, hitting the nail on the head. There were no unnecessary movements. But more tyrannid creatures are rushing in. The giant let out a deep and powerful battle roar and charged towards the swarm of insects alone. Angels! The Emperor's angels have arrived. A young soldier knelt down in prayer, tears mingling with the mud on his cheeks as they streamed down his face. Cheers erupted even further along the defensive lines, reviving the morale that had been on the verge of collapse. Everyone took up arms again. And more metal hulls are continuously crashing onto the battlefield. Holy crap! What kind of combat power is this? That's too powerful. One hit and they're all dead. Is this the Emperor's angel mentioned in the mission? Holy crap! This armor! It's so damn cool! This is an angel! The comments section was flooded with messages, leaving even the novice dumbfounded. These suddenly appearing reinforcements each displayed unimaginable combat power. Just as she was lost in thought, a gargoyle suddenly attacked from the side. Sharp bone spurs tore through the air. Little White only had time to turn to the side. Pfft! The claws pierced her shoulder, and excruciating pain instantly swept through her body. As her vision blurred, she saw a system notification slowly appear. Main quest completed, hold on until the angel descends, 100%. Before she completely succumbed to darkness. Finally, what came into view was the direction in which the blue giant turned to look at her. However, what no one noticed was that in Meng Xiaobai's completely darkened vision, a reward notification pops up indicating that a task has been completed. It was a cold and simple metal container suspended in the black void. Its entire body is made of silver metal, and the faint blue force field ripples on its surface prove that it is still in operation. At the core of the container, an irregular mass of tissue is slowly rotating under the constraint of a force field. It is like a sleeping heart, pulsating weakly and continuously at a rhythm that defies common sense. Each contraction and relaxation seems to be synchronized with some distant and enormous existence. Entry unlocked, alien living tissue in a stasis field. Affiliation, Terran. Description, it emitted an unsettling, faint pulsation, as if listening to distant whispers that only it could understand. This isn't a gift, it might be a problem that needs to be solved. Current incubation progress, 2.3%. Chapter 13. Main quest completed. Persist until the Emperor's Angel descends, 100%. Upon seeing the flashing game notification, Meng Xiaobai abruptly removed his helmet. He slumped back in the gaming chair, completely exhausted, his chest heaving as he gasped for breath. A thin layer of sweat glistened on her forehead, and she grinned foolishly. A few tears welled up in her eyes. Damn it! I finally passed. In the live stream, the chat was flooded with comments. Finally passed the level. Don't cry, little newbie, stand up and get back to work. Oh my god, that look in his eyes when he turned around at the end gave me goosebumps. The final scene was absolutely stunning. It was like something out of a movie. After a long while, Meng Xiaobai finally cried out, her voice trembling with tears, a mixture of crying and laughter. Holy crap, it actually got through. Brothers, do you know how many times I've died? 8 times. 8 times. She wiped her face, trying to calm her agitated emotions, but her voice remained trembling. When that last gargoyle attacked, I thought we were going to have to start all over again. I can't believe it. I can't believe I hit the exact point where the mission is completed. This is incredible luck. Just as she was about to check the mission rewards, a new notification popped up in the center of the screen. The background features the majestic Imperial Eagle emblem. The battle for survival in the Nest City is complete. You have achieved the following. You have unlocked the following entries. The current experience has ended. More levels are yet to be unlocked, please wait for the official release. When Meng Xiaobai and the viewers in the live stream saw this notification, they didn't complain like they usually do with other games. Instead, they all showed expressions of I knew it. It would be strange if a game of this quality were completely free, right? Meng Xiaobai took out a small mirror to fix her bangs, then shouted at the camera. Production team, come out here. I want the money. I'm willing to spend it willingly. The comments section was filled with agreement. That's right. How can you not buy this game? My wallet is ready, just waiting for the official announcement. Please, please take my money. I want to play through the later parts of the story. I want to use that armored giant's weapon. Can Terran Zerg units be unlocked? I want to play Zerg. Meanwhile, inside the studio, Jiang Chen let out a long sigh and logged out of the game. His face also showed an expression of lingering enjoyment. Even he, as the developer, after personally experiencing the entire prologue of Warhammer 40K with its realistic motion sensing suit. You will also be awestruck by the grand scenes and tense atmosphere. The after effects are incredible. Recalling the awe-inspiring scene of the final Space Marine arrival still fills me with emotion. He walked to the window, looked at the city lights under the night sky, and began to seriously consider the game's pricing strategy. In the foreseeable future, this game is sure to ignite the entire gaming industry. It might even change the current trend of cartoonish and cute game styles, and the market landscape of motion sensing games. Most mainstream motion games on the market today adopt a free-to-play model with in-app purchases. The game itself is free, but in-game items are paid. For example, the once wildly popular game Mech Age made a fortune by selling mech skins and upgrade parts. But Jiang Chen gently shook his head.